hi everyone. Today we've got the lovely Sharon on. She provides lots of different treatments. So instead of me trying to summarize it, I'm just going to head straight over to Sharon, and Sharon is going to share a little bit more about what it is that she does. Over to you.
Thank you. So my background originally was hair and beauty. So being a hairdresser, you kind of realize that you become a natural counselor for your clients and how much they like to share. And then when I went into the therapy and the healing side, which I can touch base of how I ended up in there
Mhm,
later, we I realized that if you're not happy on the inside, then and things are unhealed, then
mhm.
you feel good on the outside, but it's short-lived because you're not feeling good on the inside.
Yeah.
I also kind of observed how people kind of go down the route of consumer side to make themselves feel good. And they might
Mhm.
buy a handbag or, go shopping, like different.
Yeah. Like a quick fix must. Is
Yeah,
that,
rather than
yeah.
actually dealing in with what's
Mhm,
inside, and then that would be permanently where they
mhm.
can radiate naturally from the inside. So
Yeah.
my business is more like a holistic approach to well-being, where I
Mhm,
combine the inner as well as the outer side of
mhm.
therapy.
I love that. So do you want to tell us a bit about how you got into it? Like from obviously your days of being a hairdresser, like what was the first kind of like, I definitely think there's something here that I want to kind of work towards, and how did it kind of
I
start?
think it was two reasons how I really, one, how I got into it, and
Hmm.
the second was how I actually like delved further in.
Yeah.
So the first reason was I left the UK. I was transferred out to the Middle East. Um, I was actually only meant to be there for 6 months. I was meant to come back and get married and have kids and all that,
Yeah.
what society tells you that you should
Hmm.
do. And and then we obviously I'm in a strange country, don't know anyone, and then I went through a breakup. So my friend was going, you need Reiki, you need Reiki. And I'm like, what? Because I'm actually very logic minded.
Yeah.
If I went for something that made me feel good, it was a massage, it was a facial.
Hmm.
Um, I'm a hairdresser that doesn't like having a hair done. So quite quite a range. But so and that's how being a little bit open-minded, I was like, well, what is it? And she says, oh, you just put your hands on and it's relaxing. And I'm like, how can you put your hands on and it's relaxing? But I hadn't slept for weeks, and I'm one of these
Hmm.
people, I like to have sleep.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so then I had Reiki,
Hmm.
and I was zonked out on the bed. But then afterwards, I was up. I put my friend off from doing a session for 3 years after my session.
Really?
Yeah,
What happened?
I got off the bed, I threw up, and then I got in the car, and I don't cry. I
Uh-huh.
find it very hard for me. I had that, big girls don't cry.
Hmm.
So I could lose somebody and you will never know.
Yeah.
I was very like a closed book in a
But
lot
like
of
you've said, if you go with
things.
your logic, that's probably what you, because I'm the
Yeah,
same, as you. You put reason to everything and that's how you cope. But then we don't think about the trapped emotions because we're
exactly.
not. So that sounds like you've just purged,
Hmm.
doesn't it?
So I kind of sensitive, but kept everything in.
Yeah.
And like if I lost somebody, and I would just give myself a slap and say, oh, get on with it.
Hmm.
They're not coming back. So I was
Yeah.
quite very harsh on myself.
Hmm.
Not for you, not for anybody else.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so yeah, so then I drove home. As soon as I turned on the ignition of my car, the floods of tears came,
Hmm.
and got home, and I thought, well, I know I won't cry in front of someone. So I sat with my flatmates at the time. Then that
Hmm.
night when I went up, I had diarrhea, thrown up and crying. So
Hmm.
when I got back to work, I'm doing my client's hair.
Hmm.
How I like to be in control of things, is you probably guessed at that time. And I'm blow drying my client's hair and having to give it to my assistant while I run off to the toilet to throw up. And
Oh,
then
well.
she came back to work, and I was like, what the hell have you done to me? I felt so much better before you touched me. And she says, you need balance. And I was like, you're going nowhere near me.
Yeah.
So she'd give us a balancing session and she says, I think, you hold so much in. So I
Yeah.
think it would be good if you go and learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of went and I was like, it better not be some kind of, cult you put me in. Airy fairy stuff.
Cool.
And I sat there because I used to have a stomach ulcer.
Uh-huh.
I must have went green. And I actually thought, I was sitting there thinking, this is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. She gave us like a pillow infused with reiki, put it on my stomach. It was like a hot water bottle. And so what sold it for me was I could barely walk up them stairs because I had just started taking the antibiotics. So they were really
Mm-hmm.
strong for killing off the bacteria of, the
Mm-hmm.
germ. And then hardly got up them stairs, had my attunement, and I had no problems with my stomach for another 15 years until I
Wow.
due to come back to the UK. So for me, I needed that physical element
Confirmation.
of a
Mm-hmm.
confirmation of how
Mm-hmm.
whatever you don't know how it works, it just
Mm-hmm.
works.
Just works.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was my journey, how I got into the healing side,
Yeah.
and rather than going to somebody all the time, because obviously I had like a lot of tears to
Mm-hmm.
shed, was to actually heal myself as well. So that was
Yeah. I love a good story. That is an amazing story that happened. And you've just said there as well at the beginning, you were like, oh, this doesn't seem for me. And I think a lot of people are probably like that. If it's something new that they don't know, like they almost convince themselves that it mustn't work because otherwise they would have known about it or they would have done it before. Oh, 2 seconds, my charger's not charging. Wait there. Laptop. Um, so and I think a lot of people do need to just probably take that step, don't they? Like you did, you did it, you went sure you did it. So that's
Well, I'll
amazing
be
that
done
that's
it just
happened.
to get some sleep.
Yeah, and it worked.
Wasn't
Even though
even
you were
why I
sick that
did it
day,
for.
yeah.
I just got to that point, I was like, I need some sleep.
Oh, bless you.
And I don't like taking like I'm not into taking anything, like night nurse or medication
Mm-hmm.
or anything to try and sleep. Because
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like even back then, it's like, well, there's obviously some reason why I'm not able to sleep for, and obviously I know
Yeah.
it's a breakup, so I would rather deal with that than go down the
Mm-hmm.
paths of taking
Yeah.
medication. And then later on, how I delved in, which some of my therapies have been a bit more either on the soul level of working or the brain. And so, and I am a good driver, by the way. Before before I tell you all this, so I ended up having it's a bit like wacky races over there.
Right.
High speed, expect the unexpected. So
Yeah.
I had quite so how this kind of began was I had 3 car crashes in 1 year and I couldn't walk for nearly a year.
Wow.
So um yeah, at one point the only thing I could feel was my right arm. So
What, so you were like paralyzed?
I couldn't walk. I could shuffle,
Yeah.
but my hips weren't moving.
Oh, wow.
So I had like the whiplash and my hips
Uh-huh.
locked up.
Yeah.
After the first car crash, my hips locked up after 3 weeks, and my physio was saying how lucky I am.
Mm-hmm.
He says, because your back, which was obviously strong from doing like hair and that,
Mm-hmm.
is basically taking the hit, not the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 weeks, a delayed reaction where my hips locked up. And
Mm-hmm.
then because public transport weren't in Dubai at that time, I was having to get taxis to work and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, I need to get back in the car. Otherwise, I'm never going to drive again.
Yeah.
Or I bought a car
Mm-hmm.
and then somebody else went into the side of us coming off a slip road. Yeah, and then a van decided he wants to go the other way. I had a boat on the side of the road, so I couldn't even go off road.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided to do a U-turn in front of me, so I went under the van.
What the
Black
heck?
bar that stopped me from
Yeah.
going right under. So, and that had with that one, my hips had only just locked. I was only just starting to walk for about a week and a half when that van, when I was
Hmm.
on my way to do a photo shoot, decided to do a U-turn in front of me,
Oh man.
and I
Like
couldn't
how
stop.
unlucky is that? Like becoming threes 3 times.
Yeah,
That's just like, so what happened after that? Was that your final point? Is that when you came back to the UK, or what happened
no,
after that accident? What did you do?
I yeah, I stayed, and I mean, obviously, if I came home, I would have had help.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
stayed. No, I was there for 14 years. This was back in 2005, my first car crash.
Hmm.
Um, and stayed for 14 years.
So do you know when you were talking about, yeah, like when you got attuned, when you did your attunement for Reiki, was that when you came back to the UK, or was that in Dubai?
Well, I done no, I done all my training in Dubai,
In Dubai.
therapies.
Yeah. And so then when did you start kind of providing a service in Dubai, or did you not? Did you just learn it and then not do anything with it?
When I went on to my practitioners one, I started, if people wanted, then, I'd done chakra balances in the salon.
Hmm.
Because by then I had bought the salon off my ex-boss.
Hmm.
And he returned back to the UK, and
Hmm.
I stayed. I bought the salon, and then through that, but at that time, uh, it's a bit shun. You couldn't say things like spiritual or
Yeah.
anything that kind of side. So I
Uh-huh.
had to kind of put it down very logic, and hope that nobody comes into the salon and sees what I'm doing.
Oh no.
So, but I would do like a chakra balance while you're
Hmm.
having your hair done,
Hmm.
and a little bit of have your hair shampooed, bit of
Hmm.
a balancing, a little bit,
Yeah.
and then have your hair done.
Sounds like a min salon.
It's
Doesn't
the
it? Like
only
I don't think
salon in
I've,
Dubai you could drink alcohol in. I just couldn't promote it.
yeah. Oh my God.
SJB owns the complex. I was the only salon in Dubai that you could drink alcohol.
Drink alcohol in. Hey, that's so have you totally like let that go? Is that still like the business out there, or did you sell it? What happened with that?
Uh, I kind of hit a rock bottom place, personal side, and ended up, yeah, just walking away.
Hmm.
I stayed
Yeah.
there,
Hmm.
and then when I came to the UK, I was asked to come back for 4 months. I wasn't planning
Hmm.
on staying here. Um,
Hmm.
but with the hours I was doing out there in the fast-paced lifestyle, you realize that like I had pains in my chest, like my whole nervous system, my
Hmm.
adrenals were going mental,
Hmm.
and it just my body went
Yeah.
into shock when I came home. So when I had pains in
Yeah.
my chest for the third time, I thought I'll end up having a heart attack. So
Hmm.
I ended up commuting every 10 weeks for my clients
Hmm. Oh,
until lockdown.
wow. That is like some
And then
commitment though.
that obviously killed my outside business.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's it. I think through COVID, one of my things that I think that they definitely shouldn't have done was the way that they just locked everything down. And I think when it first came out, that first week, even we were like, oh God, we don't, because nobody knew what was happening. So we're like, right, we can't go out the house, we have to stay in. But I think it was very, very soon that we realized that this doesn't seem quite right. But then people losing their businesses and stuff, and it was like it's going to have a more detrimental effect on people's health. Wasn't it? What like you could have like we were saying before, it's a touchy subject to talk about, isn't it? But my beliefs are that people should have still had the choice to go to work and do that thing. Because
Well, you
now,
have
I mean, even
to,
yeah, I feel like my mental health stuff is definitely escalated since COVID because I'm a singer.
yeah,
So obviously I was working in pubs every weekend. I'd go out and I'd sing. My weight kept like at an evil, I kept it at even weight because I was wearing nice dresses every weekend. So I was conscious through the week. And when I couldn't work, I ended up singing in the kitchen. And then I ended up getting a bottle of wine on a Wednesday night, whereas I never used to really drink. And then it became a bottle of wine on a Saturday night. And then the takeaways came. And I put on weight that I still haven't lost. Um, So that definitely since then, and this is why the Good Life Guru, what I'm doing now is kind of being born, I guess, from that as well. I've always wanted to help people, but this is why now I feel like it's more important than ever to speak to people like yourself who have had these amazing stories with holistic like practices, who've had your own stories to tell about going through something really bad and then overcoming it, and just sharing it with people so that they know that they've got a choice and they've got alternative like options. Um,
Yeah, from my
Definitely.
I just realized how, from obviously the car crashes and that, how powerful
Yeah.
the brain is, and how, the signals between the brain and the body.
Mm-hmm.
With the COVID and everything, I just kind of, like yourself, it's body choice. I think it shouldn't ever be taken away from you,
Mm-hmm.
or coerced into it,
Mm-hmm.
through fear, being told that you're not going to get your treatment if you have it, if you don't come into hospital.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened to my mum. She thought that, if you need to have your treatments, you need to have it, otherwise you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, we have a natural immune system. We have the ability to heal our own body.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's
Yeah.
what therapy is always about, helping people to heal their own body, as well as clearing, things like past lives and, trauma, abuse,
Mm-hmm.
which gets locked into the body naturally. And that's what you're unlocking.
Yeah. And I think even with you saying like you're very like a logic person, you deal with everything in your head. I think in today's like society, a lot of people are not even like giving themselves time to stop and like listen to their body anyway because they're distracted with the news or with the phones, technology. So they're all
In
up
the head.
here, not realizing that emotions are still being created, belief systems are still being kind of created by what they're watching, just going straight into the subconscious. And
Mhm.
they're not even like making proper choices or stopping to think. And obviously being conditioned for years on, like you said about how a society expected you to get married and have a family. They do, don't they? There's like milestones that we're expected to follow. Um, so everyone just kind of plods on blinded, don't they? Just go to the next step.
Mhm. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when I had the accidents, I basically realized with the brain and the body, and how the brain functions with the makes it helps with the body to function.
Mm-hmm.
When I came home, people just connected out of the body.
Yeah.
I was seeing them walking around, and I'm like, they're not in their bodies. And I've been in that place before, like,
Mm-hmm.
way back with
Yeah.
the Reiki and that, and then you slowly get brought into your body. So the importance of the brain and the body when you're doing any form of therapy is just, that's the holistic side.
Mm-hmm. So when you've come back to the UK, and obviously I know you had your business, you said, and then you stopped it for a while and then you started it again. Like, do you want to share a little bit more about what kind of services that you provide, and how that's been kind of going for you?
Well, some of the therapies I've done was when I lived abroad, so they haven't been that as well known here. So I've
Right.
done like hypnotherapy, integrated clinical hypnotherapy,
Mm-hmm.
and radical healing. So you're
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's great for like clearing trauma and
Mm-hmm.
abuse out of the body, and you're
Right.
just gently awakening the memory cells of the body, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're bringing up to clear the trauma and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into, which is the brain, transpersonal regression therapy. So the foundations of that is counseling in a child. So it's like a 3-in-1 session. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to live in the middle of nowhere because I wanted to do my own retreats originally.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because I do like SRT, which is spiritual restructuring therapy,
Mm-hmm.
where you channel,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of align the spine, the hips, you go into joints, muscles,
Mm-hmm.
and clear things out of the body that's been locked in, those
Mm-hmm.
feelings, emotions, and programs, and also spiritual response therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So you connect to the other person's soul, and
Mm-hmm.
then with 41 charts in a pendulum, you're clearing. And through that, sometimes that could be bringing in when maybe people's vitamins are low, minerals out of the body, spiritual, psychic healing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're vibrationally bringing that in. So they don't actually need to go to the shops and buy it. So a lot of times I used to go to Harrods, is it Holland and Barrett's?
Holland Barrett's, yeah.
Yeah. And I take my body in there because I'm feeling like I'm lacking something. And I'll ask
Mm-hmm.
my body what is it required.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll pick it up and I'll vibrationally
Mm-hmm.
program that in and receive what I need.
Yeah. Wow.
That's one of the things I used to do.
That is my, and do you know what's so fascinating? How you said, like, for someone who is such, I definitely need to have a session with you because a lot of things you said at the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, you're like describing me right now. Like, I lost my dad in August, and I feel
Mhm.
like I've processed it very well logically and
Yeah.
mentally. For the 2 weeks I did feel it, and I let whatever came up go. But everything I feel like I do, I crack on. And I think, what's the point? I just need to crack on. But I've
Yeah.
got a book off my friend.
And
It's called Human. You what, E?
we are so harsh on ourselves.
We really, really are. What you just said there, though, I'm just like, wow, it's amazing that you're doing all these spiritual things. And it's like, I haven't had that awakening or that experience spiritually yet. And I don't, and I've always said, I've got a block, I've got a block. And maybe I've got a block because I'm saying I've got a block.
Mhm.
But I do think, even though I believe in it, I try and quiet my mind and not, I feel like nothing comes out. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't work for me. So,
When you have that belief, I've been with people before and they've got a really bad back, and I'll ask them. I'll always respect their choices.
mm-hmm,
You know, you can't put it on someone, and I'll say, "Would you like healing?" Oh no, that doesn't work for me. So I've learned
mm,
instead, because I have said that to a friend, going, "Well, try it." You know what I mean? And
mm-hmm.
but because I've naturally had that block of it'll not
They
work,
don't believe it. Mm-hmm.
it's not going to work because that's their point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what we spoke about briefly before, like about people's beliefs, like if someone believes they're going to die, there's probably a high chance that they are, and if they believe that this is going to work, then it probably will. So it's them limiting beliefs, isn't it?
Totally.
So do you find that obviously the people that you speak to, like what do you think is the main blocks? Is it just like the years of conditioning? Is it fear of it working and then what then? The uncertainty? Like, would you say there's a specific thing that kind of prevents people from going down the holistic route?
I think it's been in the pipeline on many categories.
Mm-hmm.
I think you know, younger generation, they don't see a purpose. I think so. Why are you here for? So I
Yeah,
think that's one thing, my point of view. Yeah, that
yeah.
will start unfolding later on. I think that's why a lot of suicide is on the rise for, because people aren't seeing a purpose. They're feeling the crunch in a lot
Mm-hmm.
of ways. They're feeling compressed
Yeah.
and squeezed. Um, so I think it's like many different things.
So obviously with you saying about like the suicide rate and people not having a purpose, like I know there's people who have actually said that and said, you know, like why am I here? What's the point? And kind of actually done that. Like, and these are teenagers as well that's kind of doing stuff like that. And do you think that the phones are to blame because then they're disconnecting from the self, aren't they? Because they're constantly like externally looking for that dopamine hit and
Well,
validation from.
it affects the self-worth, or
Mm-hmm,
the all your models are all filtered,
mm-hmm,
airbrushed, you
yeah.
know. So young girls are seeing this is how it is. And
Mm-hmm,
that's from when we were young. Now it's all selfies, it's all
mm-hmm.
rather the imagination of the part of the brain is not getting used.
Creative side. Mm-hmm,
It's mainly the logic side,
mm-hmm.
and obviously the TV's there and a brainwash. I think that there's been a lot that's been in the pipeline for a long, 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 long,
Yeah.
you know,
But isn't
time.
even the TV called Tell Our Vision?
Yeah,
Like it's there to tell you a vision and you can either like accept
tell you
that.
what they want you to know.
Yeah. Hmm. And obviously knowing like the spiritual element and the energy element, that everything vibrates and that if we are constantly faced with fear stuff,
Yeah,
things that make us not feel good, then it just puts ourselves in a low vibration, which then that's when you get cells just um not really functioning
Yeah.
the right
When I
way.
when I came back to the UK, because at the time I was doing more with access consciousness bars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so two stories on that one. So one thing that took me back in the Northeast was how much people weren't investing in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They were invested, so they'll go, but I can go and go out on the drink. I can go shopping, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It they just there wasn't the level of investment for themselves that
Mm-hmm.
really like kind of surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
That would permanently help them.
Yeah.
So they would rather go out. They would be like, why am I going to spend this amount on a session? That's expensive. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then they're spending double that to go out,
Mm-hmm.
and then they feel ill the next day.
Do you think somewhere inside them they feel like they're not worthy of like healing and recovering, or do you think it's just because again the way that we're being conditioned to fix the outside, like
Yeah, and I think when obviously we're all got put into lockdown, you can't go out, you can't do anything. I think that's when
mm,
people have realized the importance of their own well-being, their mental health,
mm-hmm,
and then that's when I think it started to open up a bit more in
mm-hmm,
the Northeast. I mean, when I came home, I've never really seen homeless people for years, being in the Middle East.
mm-hmm,
And I was just walking and I'm thinking, wow, the level back in 2017
mm-hmm.
was quite heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I've got a skill that I could use. So I had researched and found the founder for haircuts for the homeless, and I
Mm-hmm.
set it up in the Northeast. We were the only company here that was doing it for um, well, we were the only team that incorporated the therapy side. So I actually wanted to get funded for that side, so
Mm-hmm.
then I could offer it to the rest of the teams, because yes, you're preparing them for the hair, and you're making them feel good, but if they're not prepared for society and being back in,
Mm-hmm.
then they're not gonna feel
Yeah.
confident of getting to jobs and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So and I thought people are shunning them. And back in 2006, 17, I was thinking most people are from like 2, 3 packets away from being homeless themselves, but they're not
Yeah.
seeing it.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I've got a skill to use, and that's when I started to use it. Um, I was going to be doing boxing for the homeless as well. I got the go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
What did you say, boxing?
Boxing therapy. I have a circuit,
Oh, right, okay.
healing therapy circuit with boxing as therapy.
Oh, wow. See, you've said a few things that I'm like, wow, that's so interesting. I've never heard of that before. And
Mhm.
the fact that obviously you're looking into kind of doing it for the homeless and recognizing that just giving them a haircut isn't going to change their life. It might make them feel good for a day. But even what you said at the beginning is they're fixing that outside, but then they're still internally like struggling. And it's all these little things. Like people will take a picture and go, oh, like I've given them a wash or I've tidied them up, but then what? Like you just leave them to kind of go back.
But I found you brought something else up. But so there was one lady, she's not allowed to come into the homeless. Honestly, I'll probably end up crying because it makes us cry every time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was one lady, she came in and she says, can my friend come in? And but because she's got a bed for the night, she's not allowed in the centre. And I was packing up, I was about to leave, and just something was telling us, just stay. And I said, look, I'm happy if to bring her in. I'm happy to. I don't know why, but it was just like, no, I'm happy to stay. I'll go and put more money on my car. And
Mm-hmm.
so the girl came in, and I like ran a bars. I only done like a 15-minute session, and she turned around. She says, she burst into tears. Obviously, I don't know what her story was. She says, I don't know what you've done. She says, but like the reason why my friends phoned us up and told us to come in for is because she knows I was going to go and take my life. And she says, I don't know what you've done, she says, but I don't feel like taking my life now. And that, honestly, it's just like, oh, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, do you know what I mean? And I could
Like
have
you've saved
easily
someone's life. Mm-hmm.
easily just went home. And then I was asked to do the female section because it's mixed.
Mm-hmm.
The other place I was going to, they approached me, by the way. And so I went in, I said, I do the therapy and all that. They're like, great. So I went to meet the girls, and I was meant to do it at Christmas time and have a Christmas party for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the girls, it's the system that you're up against. So I went in, there's 4 houses, and got in my face, this lady. And the thing is, I've been threatened by 5 men, so I had 3 of them spin on their heels and stormed out.
Yeah.
But for me, it annoys me. It's like I don't care if anyone, if I walk in, and I have for many, many times,
Mm-hmm.
go in for doing the therapy for the homeless and they don't want it, that's their choice.
Mm-hmm.
But don't take that choice away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So I had they're basically telling me, you know, how can you do therapy and not their girls have been through stuff and they're not going to tell you. I says they don't need to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going, how can you do therapy and not talk, you know? And I went, because I can't, because you can. You
Mm-hmm.
clear the energy, you clear the
Mm-hmm.
charge, so they're not repeating the event and being stuck in that loop.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I do believe talking therapy is a time and a place, you know, but if
Mm-hmm.
someone's just been raped and anything and they have to talk about it, they go into a loop.
I suppose because they're talking about it, and unless you've got an end goal or a solution to then go, we're talking about it now, do this, then it's still going to be there, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
clearing the charge, it's clearing
Yeah.
the
And,
energy
mm-hmm.
side of
Mm-hmm.
it first, so then they're not feeling the, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
strongness with talking. So there
Yeah.
was a lady there and she was saying, I understand what you're saying. And I says, would you like a session? And she went, yeah. So that's how 3 of them stormed out.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, is there any you know, side effects of this? I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be freaking happy.
You know, you're going to shit yourself, you're going to be sick.
Oh no,
I'm
no.
just kidding. You might purge, but you'll feel better afterwards.
But I was taken, there was 6 girls that went in at Christmas time,
Mm-hmm.
6 of us. Hair, healing. It was just me doing the healing because I, I don't put it
Yeah.
on them, you know, it's there if they want it. I had
Mm-hmm.
another girl that was coming in for doing the beauty side.
Mm-hmm.
So, and went in, and the women hadn't come down, like the ones who run it, and basically they were like, oh, nobody wants, they don't want anything. That's 3 houses. And by the way, one house sits 12 people. They hadn't put it in. It was meant to be their Christmas party. I took loads of presents. I had loads of donations for them. I had gifted them loads of hair products. And they all had, they didn't have a Christmas tree up. They were decorating. They hadn't been told.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Where was the space? Is this like Newcastle or South Shields
Yeah,
or in
Newcastle,
Newcastle?
because that's where I was working, yeah. But for me, it's like I say, it's not about if the girls don't want it, the girls don't want it. And I had spoke to a client who was a counsellor, and
Mm-hmm.
I never followed it up. I should have, but she basically said she she was like the head. She says she would be absolutely bewildered the fact that you've been treated this way when you know you know what you're doing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Very strange though as well, isn't it, that?
But it's just that they're struck on the talking therapy. And don't get me wrong, I do believe counselling and talking therapy is good,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes you need to clear that charge first. And that's
Yeah.
the bridge that they don't really recognize so much.
Mm-hmm. And I guess as well, like going back to them belief systems, like if you think talking therapies is probably not going to help you, then there's a high chance it's not, because you've got that choice to make in your brain. Whereas if you're doing what you're doing, I would imagine that the choice is not yours, it just happens energetically in your body. Like, do you know what I mean? So I wonder if that's like maybe.
We didn't see that you can actually do therapy without having they were like, the girls aren't going to talk to you, they're not going to open up, and I was like, but they don't need to.
Yeah. So are you doing any projects like that or similar at the minute? Like
Well,
involved with
obviously with
anything?
lockdown that came to a head, but yeah, it's just finding the right venue again.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I had girls coming from Hexham and that, so to be honest, it would be more Newcastle.
Hmm.
And I've just started doing acupuncture myself.
Hmm.
So I'll be cooperating because I had a lady for doing acupuncture as well
Yeah.
coming in. So
So like if you obviously when you come back, or say if somebody wanted to contact you now before you get your venue, before you do all that, like are you available for work now? Like do you do one-to-one things if people come to you, or you go to people? Like are you doing anything like that at the moment?
what for doing like normal
Just
sessions?
any of your holistic therapies, any of your services? Have you got any
Yeah,
of them
yeah,
going at the
I
minute?
do one-on-one, and I'm in the process of doing. I'm looking for venues. I thought you were talking about the homeless there.
Oh, sorry.
Um, I am looking for other venues because I actually do sound therapy and
Right.
sound baths.
Hmm.
And I teach dragon frequency tubes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot in the background at the moment that I've been creating,
Hmm.
and with the shamanic work,
Hmm.
looking for retreats
Yeah.
and the venue for Cambo and that.
Hmm. So do you know the dragon therapy? Like, what is that in a nutshell? Like, what is that?
So they're like tubes, but they're
Right.
channeled and to a certain frequency.
Hmm.
So you've got so as an example, you've got like the level, like the 111 and the 110,
Hmm.
and because there's 1 hertz missing, it creates a binaural beat in between.
Hmm.
So if I have a client that sits in the middle, then you can actually reprogram. It has an effect in the brain and reprogramming.
Wow.
So you can create like so I got the solfeos,
Hmm.
and you have them which create like delta and theta.
Hmm.
We're doing like a
Like
5 week
brainwaves.
meditation through the elements. So
Hmm.
we're doing air 1 week, wind, air 1 week, fire, and go
Hmm.
through all the elements with like breath work and that.
Yeah.
Uh, but they're from like fourth dimensional up to 13 dimensional. So you've got the Pleiadians, you've got
Hmm.
archangels.
Hmm.
There's like loads of different tubes
Yeah.
to work with.
I just love the sound of all of that kind of stuff. And again, going back to like how logical you were,
I
just to
know,
hear you keep going, oh, and I do sound baths, oh, and I do dragon
but
therapy.
we
It sounds
are we
amazing.
are we are like frequency beings.
Yeah. Hmm.
And the thing that I like about the dragon frequencies, I love my gongs and everything.
Hmm.
The gongs are very like powerful and
Hmm. Yeah.
dragon frequencies, I just feel they get to subtle parts of the systems
Yes.
maybe you're not aware of.
Yeah.
And sometimes the subtleness is the power.
Yeah.
It goes into those places that you're probably not expecting.
Yeah. So do you think as well, some people, like when they go to get help, especially like if they're going to talking therapies and stuff, that sometimes they don't actually know what's wrong sometimes, and that this kind of stuff can help reach them areas if that's subconscious that they're not aware of. So that's probably why.
I mean, like when you do a sound therapy, what I would play for if I was had a client that had anxiety, I would do the session very differently
Hmm.
than if I had someone that had depression.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because someone with anxiety, you need to bring them, calm their nervous system down,
Yeah.
their vagus nerve. With depression, you want to heighten that, like break up that heavy energy.
Hmm.
It's just very different.
Different methods. So going back to you mentioned obviously teenagers and that a lot of them are totally disconnected. They don't know about the purpose. So what kind of treatment would you say would benefit like teenagers who are just plodding through life, don't know who they are, identity crisis, got no purpose, like what would you say could benefit them? Or have you not worked enough with them to know?
So one of the things I'm actually after doing is for families, because uh it's doing sound baths for children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also the parents, it's tough for them as well, but
Mm-hmm.
for the children and with the parents, just kind of blends the energy in that.
Yeah, and I suppose it's probably a good idea to try and get the family and parents involved because they probably feel like they're losing their kids and they don't know who the kids are because a lot of teenagers just don't want to talk to the parents and they probably offer their mates, and so it might be good to rekindle that connection, I guess, as well, between the family and stuff. So, like, if obviously on the podcast on this, I'm going to put any links you want me to share, like in the description. What would say that would be the first or main thing that you want to try and kind of get out there? Or is it a case of I'm just going to put everything there and whoever comes first for what
Yeah, I mean,
service?
at the moment, like I've just been like opening up my business again,
Hmm.
and so at the moment it's just Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn,
Hmm.
um, and I've just been like setting up other things, but I've had my name stolen, so I should have had that last September, so I should have had my paperwork from the courts weeks ago.
Oh wow,
So
what name was that?
my SJB wellbeing,
Oh really?
yeah, my
What?
.com.
Oh wow. So what? Someone just bought that domain name or
So long
hacked?
story short, so I had somebody building my website back in 2017,
Hmm.
and then my friend was stuck in Dubai. I shouldn't probably go down that line, but so she was building it for me. I had to sell a computer, give it to somebody who she was working with, and unfortunately he fell ill and had to be airlifted out of Dubai. Came back to the UK, so obviously for the next couple of years he was very critical ill, so I couldn't.
Mhm.
So my work was on the back of his computer, and unfortunately he passed away. So yeah,
Oh
so it got taken.
wow.
Um, and then I should have got it back in September. They appealed in December. So it went back into court in the January. Paperwork
Hmm.
didn't arrive from I've never ever known how paperwork doesn't gets lost from courts.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so that got lost. And then a few weeks ago it was in another back in court, paid again, got the paperwork sent out, still hasn't arrived. She's got someone else trying to on her behalf,
Hmm.
and another court, and still hasn't
Yeah.
arrived.
Could it be that the universe is telling you not to use that name? Think of a new one.
No.
You need that name.
I'm quite stubborn. Things I don't bow on, but yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about getting still um another another
Mhm.
one, but my .com. It's on. I branded my business back in 2005. It's on all my bags, everything.
Yeah. Hmm. So it's kind of important that you get that
Mhm.
sorted. So who's actually using it? Is it someone from the UK or?
India.
Oh, okay. Oh God.
They're
That's
not
just a,
using it. I can get it back. It's just going to cost us a few thousand.
oh, that is shocking. That, and is that why you go through court? See, I'm going to pay for it because it was kind of yours.
But I'm still was being
Yeah.
paid.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, fingers crossed. Like,
yeah.
fingers crossed that works out quite well. Um, and I know you made some notes obviously before we come on because well, we're going to do this next week and we decided to do it today. So it was like, oh, let's do it today. Is there anything else that you want to cover or talk about on the podcast? Well, yeah, I think you've covered like quite a nice amount of stuff, and I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you actually today. Is there anything you feel might be important for the listeners, or anything you want to tell about yourself or about your services?
I think one of the stories where you asked us about the success stories, because we've been
Mm,
talking about health, and I
yes.
I think people are aware that you can kind of heal things more holistically through your health.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't have to be all on emotional and so I had a client that's had IBS from childhood,
Mhm.
and through transpersonal, we actually went into our colon and
Mhm.
explored that, and any discoloration or shadows, shall we say, in the
Mhm.
scanning, we
Mhm.
would go into that. It took about 8 sessions,
Mhm.
and that healed through the transpersonal regression, healed her IBS that she's actually suffered
Wow.
from being childhood.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing that.
Hmm.
So would you say, because by the sounds, would you say that somebody could contact you in whatever service you provide depends on what they need? Would that be a right thing to say?
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
that and SRT is very quick and direct. So
Is that the spiritual response
yeah.
therapy? Hmm.
Hmm. And I've had people that have come that have had children that have bedwetting, or
Hmm.
have had health issues, and play programs around that, heal
Yeah.
relationships, different
Hmm.
things.
And are you still doing the whole like your hairdressing stuff as well on top of all of this? Still doing that as well? So
Hmm.
like cutting, colouring, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
still do a little bit of the hair.
So if
Um,
somebody comes to book you for the hair, they can get a bit of a talking session out you of the reiki as well at the same time.
yeah, I have a therapy room at home, so I work mainly at home, especially if
Yeah.
I'm doing therapy or
Hmm.
online with the SRT and transpersonal, I can do online.
Yeah.
But I also do corporate work.
Hmm.
So as the business is about, transforming from the inside out. So with the corporate side, it's very tough on you can see the effects with the mental health. So I'm looking
Hmm.
at adding in more on the mental health side, and not just the massaging.
Hmm. Well, that sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much
You're
for
very
obviously
welcome.
spending the time to come and have a chat. And like I said before, I'll be putting all of your links in the description. And then obviously when you do get your website and your domain name and things sorted, I can just go back on and edit and pop that in as well anyway. So thank you so, so much, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely seeing you.
Thank you.